Good hot and muggy evening from the farmer's garden. I'm one of the farmers and I'm back out in the hen house again. So this evening I want to go over bringing in young chicks. If you're new to our page, we've been doing a little mini series on beginning your journey as a chicken tender. And so we've been trying to kind of answer some questions and things, and right now we're going to go over bringing home chicks or hatching chicks of your own. I'm not going to do a video on incubation until I've had a couple more times to practice that, so I can do that video in a few months, but for right now we're going to focus on what it looks like to bring home your chicks. So I'm going to start by going over some of the supplies that you need. So the first thing you need is a cage, and then you will need a heat lamp, some type of water, some type of feeder. You will need chick, grower, starter, crumbles. Chick feed is higher in protein than traditional layer pellets, and you do need to start with that because it gives them a much better start in life. Obviously, if you have a chicken that is broody and you let her hatch her eggs and raise them, she's going to be eating the food that the other hens are eating unless you separate her. I have a broody hen right now. I haven't decided yet if I'll separate her or just let her do her thing. But if you're raising them yourself and they're already separated, go ahead and put them in a place where you can give them those grower pellets and not start out with the lower protein. Start with the good high protein stuff. So I'm going to just show y'all quickly the types of feeders and waters and cages and things that you need. All right, I don't have just a ton of space here in the feed room, so hopefully I can get this shot good. So we like these rabbit hutches as our chick brooders. They are large enough to accommodate, I think we've done almost 50 day-old chicks in one of these. Anything more than that, we would probably separate them. And we do separate 50. We separate them within a week, probably, that they get separated into two of these. But these are just rabbit show cages, basically. And so you've got a wire floor. You can do newspaper in the bottom, and that helps with the little tiny ones from dropping their feet through. Or you can do pine shavings in the bottom as well. We've only had a few chickens, or chicks I should say, learn how to squeeze through these sides. It happens every once in a while. You'll get one that gets out. Not often do they squeeze out of these for us. And then of course it latches securely to keep the chicks in and the cat and the whatever out. So we are most likely going to be starting our chicks actually in the house this time because it is so hot. Normally I would start them either in the shop or when it's super cold I also start them in the house. But this time of year we don't so much need a heat lamp. But during spring, so I talked the other day about getting your chicks in the spring. In the spring you would want to definitely start out with a heat lamp, and this is just, you can buy these at Tractor Supply, Atwoods, wherever. Put the heat lamp bulb in there, and I just set mine right on top like that. If you have a place to hang it, that's great. If not, and then put it over in a corner. You don't want to put it directly in the middle, put it to the side so that the chicks can decide, do I want to be warmer? Do I want to be cooler? And then watch your chicks, because where they're spaced within the pen will show you how they're doing health-wise. I've got a couple of little scraps of cardboard here that I'm going to use to simulate chicks. So let's say this is in your pen, and that's a chick, and that's a chick, and that's a chick. That's a pretty good spacing. If they're spaced out like that, they're pretty comfortable. Unless they're asleep, you should rarely find your chicks in this position. When you find your chicks all bundled like this, they're too cold. And they're going to start stomping each other, and they will actually kill each other, even as tiny as they are. They're like an ounce or less when they're brand new. But they will actually stomp each other. So if you start seeing them bundled up like this and they're not asleep, they're just standing there cheeping, you need to do something to make them warmer. Move them to a warmer place, a less drafty place, add another heat lamp, whatever it is. If you start seeing your chicks like this, and they're just completely spread out, specifically if they're spread out like that, as far from the heat lamp as they can possibly be, that means they are too hot. And you would want to either remove the heat lamp for a while, maybe it's mid-afternoon and you could just unplug it for a while, or move it further to a corner so they can get away. What I like to do is, like I said, put my heat lamp kind of off to one side. There's a couple of kinds of feeders you can use. There's that kind, and there's this one. And this one is not clean. All right, so this one, you would fill this up with feed. So fill it with feed while the red part is off. It screws on like a jar. And then screw it on, and the feed falls down into the bottom here. Or this one, you just dump the feed into the tray. And like I say, I need to clean both of them, but I'm not needing them just yet, so haven't got that done yet. I like to use this kind. I find that this one, they tend to waste more feed, so I don't use this one as often. It's kind of my backup feeder. But what I do is I take this one, and I put it kind of right near that heat lamp. And then the babies are warm while they're eating. They can come away from there if they need to, but that gives them, it gives them a place that they can get up a little higher. They can get on top and get a little closer to the heat lamp. I do find that chicks poop into this one, but they poop in the other one too. So just take it once a day, dump it out, and clean it. And then you'll also need a waterer. And I use 2 different kinds of waterers. So this one is the same concept as the little jar feeder. You would turn it upside down, fill the jar with water, and then screw that red ring back on. When you turn it down, it will gravity feed into here. Once the water level comes up over the hole, it stops pouring out, theoretically. Same thing with this one. You take it apart, you turn it upside down, you fill it, you screw the red back on, you put it down. The water comes out. Once it reaches the top of the hole, it stops coming out. Now the problem with either of these, you cannot put them directly under your heat lamp. So between filling and turning upside down, you're going to get some air in here. And when air gets warmer, it expands. And so if that's under your heat lamp, you might start with that much air, and through the day, that air will just push much of your water out and onto the bottom. So if this is sitting on a solid surface, your chicks are swimming. If it's on newspaper, your newspaper is soggy. Your chicks get wet, all of those things. So never put this directly under your heat lamp. So I would tend to put that like right back there, maybe scoot this a little more this way so that that's further from the lamp. And then again, chicks can get kind of behind it over there if they want. They can come over on this side. So this is kind of what the floor of the cage would look like. And then, like I say, I've done around 50 in one of these for about a week before. All right, so that's your basic setup once you get home with your chicks or hatch your chicks, whichever way you're doing it. And I will still go over breeds in a few days. I'm waiting on a catalog to come in. My chick catalog got thrown away, and so I'm waiting for one of those to come in so that we can kind of go through that and look at the terms and things. But another question that a lot of people have had is, how do you put your young chicks with your older birds? So you're going to have to expect some fighting. You cannot put them together when your chicks are brand new. So for example, Trudy is about to hatch chicks, and she is in a pen with 4 other hens and a rooster, about to be 5 other hens and a rooster, because I'm going to move one over there in a minute. And so I don't know for sure how well those other hens and roosters will cooperate with having those chicks in there. So I may have to move her out to protect the chicks, because a lot of times what happens is this little bitty thing comes hopping through and they see it as a food source. They haven't sat on eggs, they haven't hatched eggs, that's just a food source. And so they will kill and eat the chicks. So you want to keep them separated. Don't bring your chicks home and put them straight in the pen. But once they're a few weeks old, once they start to get feathers, then you can start slowly introducing them either into their own pen or into the other pen. So I've done that a couple of different ways. I like to put them first into their own pen. So as y'all know, if you've been watching these videos, my hen house is divided into 2 pieces. So I've got this main chunk here. This is the big piece. So this tends to be where my laying hens are, the ones that are laying most of the eggs that I'm selling. This chunk over here, this smaller bit behind this wall, is where I either raise chicks, or right now it's the older birds that I'm about to start selling off. So once these are sold off, chicks will go back in here, and those chicks will stay in there. They're separated on the bottom by this tin so they can't come through. Occasionally I get one that manages to land up on this top and come through, and a lot of times those don't make it. So we try to keep that tin there, and that comes up 2 feet high, so most of the chicks don't get out. It happens, like I think we had it happen one time this year, so not very often. But I let the chicks have that whole pen to themselves. I keep heat lamps in there at first. I keep their feeders just exactly like they were, and I slowly wean them off of the heat lamps. I slowly switch them to the feeders that we use for our adult birds. So our adult birds use these hanging feeders. These just hang from the ceiling. They hang high enough to try to keep some of the rodents out of them. So we slowly transition to all of those after the chicks have had some time to just acclimate to being on the ground. And after that, once they're bigger, and I try for about 2 months before I put them in with hens, but you can do it a little bit sooner as long as you're careful. And usually it's best to give them a part of the pen where the hens can't go. Maybe that's a piece of hog panel in the corner of the pen where the chicks can run through the hog panel, but the chickens can't get through. Something to that effect, so that you have a place for your chicks to get away if the hens start pecking at them. All right, but I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like when you first start to introduce a new bird to an old flock. All right, so this girl is an Australorp. She is about 18 months old, and she is also a broody hen, kind of like Broody Trudy. And so we're going to put her in with the roosters and let her also try to raise some. So she has been with these hens before, but never with these roosters. Apologies if you have children in the room, you may have to explain some rooster behavior to them. But this is what it looks like when you introduce a new bird. So I'm going to put the Australorp down on the ground, and then I'm going to step out of the pen. So the roosters are mainly just trying to do rooster activities. They're like, oh look, new female, and so that's what they're trying to do. And they're going to gang up on her. It's what they do. In a few minutes, she will get to walk away. Everybody will get to smell her. Everybody will get to peck at her. Everybody will get to see where she fits into our flock over here. Come on, leave her alone. Leave her alone. And she will slowly begin to integrate in with these. So it takes a little bit. There's going to be some pecking. There's going to be some fussing. There's going to be some fighting. But as long as I leave them alone, if she's not bleeding, I'm going to leave her in here and I'm going to let them work it out. Because if I continually take her in and out, hoping that I can somehow make her, protect her that way or something like that, I'm just going to prolong the process. So I need to just leave her in there and let them duke it out. And this is why I say not to do this with very young chicks, because they're just not up to this process. So I'm going to walk away. I'm going to let them do their thing. Sorry, mostly it's going to be the roosters messing with her, and everybody else is just going to have to see who she is, and then everybody will be okay again. All right, I'm going to attempt to show you what it looks like to candle eggs. I'm not totally sure how I'm going to be able to show this, since I can't hold my phone and candle eggs at the same time. But we're going to try. So this is an egg that Trudy has been sitting on for almost 3 weeks. And normally we would do this in the house where it's dark, but I don't want to carry her eggs inside. So I'm going to see if I can do it out here. So what you're going to do is put the light behind the egg, and you're going to look for light to be shining through the egg. And I'm not seeing anything through, but that's actually what I would expect on that one. Let's check with one that was laid today. Yeah, so on this one that was laid today, I'm not sure if it shows up at all on the video, but I can see light through this one. So this is a brand new one. It was just laid today, and this is one she's been sitting on for nearly 3 weeks, and I can't see light through it because there's a chick developing inside. And again, I don't know if that's showing up at all on the video. It's very hard for me to find a place to do this. I can see light through that one as well. That's another one that was laid today. and I have no light through this one, and that is what I would expect for having a chick in there. So we've been doing that with our eggs that are in the house. We have one chick that has hatched so far, and we have about 17 eggs in the incubator, but we only expect about 5 or 6 more to hatch. So hopefully those will go ahead and hatch soon, but that's what we do, is we basically just look for light to come through the egg. At different stages, more or less light will come through. Since they're close to hatching, we don't expect to see any light coming through because there's a chick in the way. All right, like I said, I'm not going to show you how to do an incubator just yet because I'm not an expert yet, but you can see we have one new baby in there. You can see that they are teeny tiny when they're first born. And so this guy is actually going to stay in here. We're hoping for some more of these to hatch, and he will stay in there. He can stay in there up to 2 days without food or water because the remainder of the yolk that was in the egg with him has actually been absorbed into his tummy, and so he's got that nutrients to work with. So he's good in there for now. All right, so I'm going to try to show you candling one more time. Got my flashlight. This is an egg I just picked up outside today. You can see that it is completely see-through. There is nothing in there. This did come from the fertile chicks, or the fertile chickens, I should say. This is a fertile egg, but it has not been incubated at all yet. This is one that I've been watching that I don't feel like is going to hatch. You can see there is a dark spot in there. It's like it started to develop and it just didn't finish. So I don't expect this one to hatch. And same with this one. You can see the dark spot on the top, but I don't expect it to hatch. The ones that are going to hatch, this is all completely dark at this point, okay? These should be starting to come out of their eggs, and so if it was going to hatch, it would be turning completely dark at this point, so that, because it would be full, not so that, but because it would be full of a chick in there, so it wouldn't let any of the light go through. All right, so there you go. That's kind of the setup for getting ready to bring home chicks. I hope it made some kind of sense out in the heat. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but there's the setup, the rundown for how to bring home chicks or how to hatch them. And again, I'll go over breed selection later, and in a few months I will do an incubation video. I'm not skilled enough to do that video yet. I don't want to teach you wrong. But we're going to wait, and hopefully some more of these chicks in this incubator will hatch. We're kind of watching the temperature. We're watching the shells. We're hoping for a crack. It would be a real bummer if we only got one, but it's our first time, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed your visit to the farm. I hope you are learning something about chickens, and y'all be sure and tell me if you have any more questions. Be sure and tell your friends about our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, and come back when you can stay longer.